Something about this feels different, more intimate, more emotional, like the entire Bridgerton world is about to slow down just so we can finally understand where it all began. Because let's be real, for a second we've seen Violet Bridgerton as the calm, wise, elegant mother who always knows what to say at the perfect moment. But what happens when we rewind time and see her before she became the woman everyone admires? Not as Mama Bridgerton, but as a young girl with a racing heart, unsure steps, and emotions she has not yet learned to control. And right there, standing in the middle of that story, is Edmund, the man we only know through whispers, memories, and heartbreak. The man whose absence shaped an entire family. And yet, the more we hear about him, the more it feels like he was never just a background figure. He was the beginning of everything. The spark. The foundation. The love that built the Bridgerton legacy brick by brick. And now this first look is teasing something fans have been waiting years to see. Not just their love story, but their energy together. That undeniable connection that everyone around them could feel before they even understood it themselves. Because that's the thing about Violet and Edmund. Their story was never loud. It was never chaotic. It was something deeper. Something that felt inevitable. And the way fans are already reacting, it's like the entire Bridgerton fandom collectively just remembered something they were missing. Because we've had hints before, tiny fragments scattered across seasons. Violet's soft memories. Emotional moments that never fully explained what she lost. And now suddenly those fragments are starting to connect. Like pieces of a puzzle finally sliding into place after years of confusion. And if you think about it, this prequel isn't just about romance. It's about origin. It's about the roots of every Bridgerton sibling we've grown attached to. Anthony's responsibility. Benedict's curiosity. Daphne's hope. Colin's charm. Hyacinth's chaos. Gregory's innocence. All of it starts here. With Violet and Edmund. And that alone makes this feel bigger than just a love story. Because now we're not just watching two people fall in love. We're watching the creation of a family that became the heart of an entire universe. And there's something almost bittersweet about that realization. Because we already know how this story ends. We already know Edmund's fate. We already know the heartbreak that shaped Violet into who she becomes. But that's exactly why this feels so powerful. Because now every smile, every dance, every soft moment between them carries weight. And the first look seems to lean into that emotional tension. Teasing a love so bright that you already feel the shadow waiting at the edge of it. A romance that feels warm and dangerous at the same time. Like you're falling in love and saying goodbye in the same breath. But what really has fans talking is the way this prequel could finally show the version of Violet we've never seen before. Not the composed matriarch, but the girl who could get flustered. The girl who admitted she once struggled to speak when Edmund was near. Just imagine that for a second. The woman who now gives advice on love, once couldn't even find the words for her own. And Edmund, he isn't just being remembered as a name anymore. He's being rebuilt as a character. A presence. A heartbeat in the past that still echoes through everything we've watched so far. And that's where things start to feel almost dangerous for fans. Because the more real they become in our minds, the more emotional this story is going to hit when it finally unfolds. And this is just the beginning. Because if this first look is already making waves like this, then what comes next might completely change how we see the entire Bridgerton world forever. And now the story starts to feel even more personal, because the deeper we go into Violet and Edmund's world, the more we realize this isn't just a romance. It's the origin of everything we thought we understood about love in the Bridgerton universe. The first look is teasing something subtle but powerful. Not just two people meeting, but two souls slowly being pulled toward each other like they were always meant to collide, even before they knew what destiny was. And what makes this so addictive is how human it feels. Violet wasn't always the calm voice of reason we know today. She wasn't always the woman standing in the center of a crowded ballroom, guiding her children through love stories of their own. There was a time when she was uncertain, when her heart didn't follow rules, when she overthought every glance, every word, every moment that Edmund was near. And that version of her? That's what fans are desperate to see. Because it makes her real. It makes her story something we can feel in our chest. And Edmund, he's starting to feel less like a shadow from the past, and more like a force that shaped everything forward. The way people describe him, the way Violet remembers him in fragments. It all paints a picture of someone warm, steady, and quietly magnetic. Not the loudest in the room, but the one you can't stop noticing once you do. And that kind of character energy, that's exactly what makes a Bridgerton love story unforgettable. The first look seems to hint at those early moments, the kind that don't look dramatic on the surface, but completely change everything underneath. A passing glance that lingers too long. A conversation that starts too casually, but ends with a heartbeat out of rhythm. A silence that somehow feels louder than words. And what's really interesting is how this prequel could completely reframe the way we see Violet's memories in the main series. Because right now we only see her reflecting on Edmund through grief and nostalgia. But imagine going back and seeing those same memories from the beginning. Not as loss, but as love in its purest form. That shift alone could change everything for the audience. And let's not forget the emotional weight already hanging over this story. We know this love doesn't get a fairy tale ending. We know heartbreak is coming. But somehow that makes every soft moment between them even more powerful. Because it's temporary. Because it's precious. Because every second matters more when you already know time is limited. That's what makes this prequel feel dangerous in the best way. It's not just about watching a romance unfold. It's about falling in love with something you already know you will lose. And Bridgerton fans? They live for that kind of emotional damage. And the way this first look is being framed suggests the series will lean heavily into that contrast, light and warmth wrapped around something fragile. Like sunlight breaking through a storm that you know is already coming closer. And that's why people aren't just excited. They're emotionally preparing themselves. Because Violet and Edmund's story isn't just another chapter in the Bridgerton universe. It's the chapter that explains why every other love story exists the way it does. And just when you think the emotional weight couldn't get any heavier, the first look starts teasing something even more intriguing. The idea that Violet and Edmund's love story wasn't just beautiful, but foundational in a way that shaped every single Bridgerton sibling we've come to know. Because if you look closely at the energy of this universe, nothing feels random. Every personality, every romantic flaw, every emotional strength, it all traces back to them. And that's where this prequel starts to feel almost like a hidden origin code being unlocked. Anthony's constant need to protect? That feels like a reflection of a love he witnessed between his parents. Benedict's longing for something deeper beyond society's expectations? That emotional curiosity didn't appear from nowhere. Daphne's belief in true love, Colin's search for meaning, even Eloise's resistance to tradition. It all feels like echoes of something Violet and Edmund once built together. And suddenly this isn't just a romance anymore. It's a legacy study. The first look seems to lean into that idea without saying it directly. It doesn't just show love. It shows impact. It shows how two people can exist in a world like Bridgerton's, and still create something so strong that it continues to shape lives long after one of them is gone. That's what makes Edmund such a powerful figure even now, because his presence is felt more than it is seen. And Violet, she becomes even more fascinating in this context. Because now, every piece of wisdom she gives her children hits differently. It's no longer just advice. It's experience. It's memory. It's emotion she has survived. And watching her younger self in this prequel is going to feel like watching the moment all that wisdom was born. Through love, joy, confusion, and eventually heartbreak. And that's where the emotional tension really starts building. Because we're not just watching a relationship grow. We're watching the formation of a person who will one day have to carry its absence forever. That duality is what makes this story so powerful. In one timeline, Violet is falling in love. In the other, she is learning how to live after losing it. And Bridgerton has always been good at emotional contrast. But this feels like it's on another level entirely. Even the smallest details hinted in this first look feel loaded with meaning. A shared smile that feels too real. A moment of hesitation before saying something important. A quiet understanding between two people who don't need words to know what the other is thinking. These aren't just romantic tropes. They are emotional building blocks. The kind that make audiences invest not just in what happens but in what it means. And the more we think about it, the more we realize something important. This prequel isn't just filling in a backstory. It's rewriting how we interpret everything that came after. Every Bridgerton season, every love story, every emotional moment tied to Violet. It will all feel different once we see where it started. And that's why fans are already spiraling. Because once you open this chapter, You can't look at the Bridgerton world the same way again. And now the first look starts to push into territory that fans have been speculating about for years. The idea that Violet and Edmund's love story wasn't just soft and romantic, but deeply transformative in a way that shaped the entire emotional DNA of the Bridgerton household. Because when you really think about it, every Bridgerton sibling carries a different piece of that original love story inside them. And this is where things start to feel almost overwhelming in the best possible way. Because we're no longer just talking about Violet and Edmund as individuals, we're talking about them as the foundation of an entire emotional universe. The kind of love that doesn't just exist in moments, but echoes through generations. And the first look seems to hint at something very intentional, that their relationship wasn't perfect in a fairy tale sense, but perfect in a human sense. The kind of love built on laughter, misunderstanding, patience, and growth. The kind of love that feels real enough to survive anything except fate. And that's where the tragedy quietly sits in the background of every frame we imagine. But what really has fans locked in is the possibility of seeing the early social world around them. The friendships, the rivalries, the pressure of expectation that defined every choice in that era. Because Violet and Edmund didn't fall in love in isolation. They fell in love in a world that constantly tried to shape them, test them, and sometimes even pull them apart. And yet, they still found their way back to each other. That kind of storytelling is exactly what makes Bridgerton so addictive. Because it's never just about romance. It's about survival in a world where love is both the most powerful and most fragile thing you can have. And then there's the emotional curiosity that this first look is clearly playing with. The idea that we already know how this story ends, but we still can't look away. That's the most dangerous kind of storytelling. Because it makes every happy moment feel like it's carrying a hidden weight. Every laugh feels a little more precious. Every touch feels like something you want to freeze in time. And fans are already imagining how this will change everything we thought we understood about Violet's character in the main series. Because right now we see her as someone who gives love advice with calm confidence. But in this prequel we might see the origin of that confidence. Not as something she was born with, but something she had to learn through experience, emotion, and loss. And Edmund. The more this story builds him up, the more important he becomes. Not just as a husband, but as the emotional center of Violet's entire life story. The kind of person who doesn't just love you, but changes the way you understand love itself. And that's why his absence is so powerful in the original timeline, because it's not just loss. It's the removal of a foundation. And the first look seems to be teasing those emotional extremes. Joy so pure it feels unreal, and sadness so inevitable it feels written in stone. That contrast is what will make this prequel so emotionally intense when it finally arrives. Because we're not just watching a love story unfold. We're watching the moment before everything changes forever. And now everything starts to come full circle. Because the deeper we go into Violet and Edmund's prequel, the more it feels like this isn't just another addition to the Bridgerton universe. It's the missing piece that explains why everything else exists in the first place. The first look isn't just teasing romance anymore. It's teasing origin, destiny, and heartbreak all wrapped into one story that was always waiting to be told. And what makes this final part so powerful is the realization that this love story was never meant to be simple. It was never meant to be just boy meets girl, or a typical period drama romance. It was always something bigger, something that carries emotional consequences across an entire family tree. Because Violet and Edmund didn't just fall in love. They built a world without even realizing it. A world that would continue to live, breathe, and grow even after one of them was gone. And that's why this prequel feels so emotionally loaded, even before it officially arrives. Because fans are not just excited for romance. They are preparing for impact. The kind of emotional storytelling that stays with you long after the screen goes dark. The kind that makes you think differently about every Bridgerton scene you've ever watched before. And the first look seems to lean into that exact feeling, that bittersweet balance between warmth and sadness. Because every soft moment between Violet and Edmund now carries double meaning. On one side, it's love at its purest. On the other side, it's time running out quietly in the background. And that contrast is what makes this story feel so unforgettable. But maybe the most powerful part of all this is Violet herself. Because when we finally see her in this era, we're not just seeing a love interest, We're seeing a transformation, watching a young woman slowly become the emotional backbone of an entire family. We're watching her experience joy so deep it defines her, and pain so real it reshapes her forever. And that journey is what will make this prequel more than just entertainment. It will make it emotional history. And Edmund, even in absence, even in memory, even in the way fans are already imagining him, he stands as the quiet force behind everything. The kind of character who doesn't need endless screen time to matter, because his impact is already written into every Bridgerton story we know. And now finally we get to see why. And as this first look continues to spread and spark theories, one thing becomes clear: fans are not just waiting for a show. They are waiting for closure. They are waiting for understanding. They are waiting to feel the beginning of a love story that shaped everything that came after it. Because once Violet and Edmund's story is told, the entire Bridgerton universe will never feel the same again. And maybe that's